We're here with a little bit of a 2023 NFL playoff preview. I have the defending Super Bowl champion, Cgauch, with me. Cgauch, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, man? And it's the three-time Super Bowl champion.
Oh, pardon me. And we're going to be previewing these playoff games. Let's start with the AFC. The Chargers take on the Jags, and of course, it's going to be in Jacksonville because the Jags won the division. And for me, this comes down to the Chargers coaching. I think Staley is an absolute stooge. I think they're the worst coached team in football. And despite the plethora of talent they have on both sides of the ball, great quarterback, young quarterback Herbert with a big arm. Bosa, of course. Obviously, Mike Williams got hurt last game. A meaningless game Staley kept in. So I'm going to give the Jags the edge here. I really think Lawrence has developed a lot since his rookie year. What do you think, the Gouch?
If you would have asked me about like 2 weeks ago, I would have said the Chargers are like just getting healthy and have like the hottest team going into the playoffs. Like I had them like upsetting the Bengals potentially, like if they had to play the Bengals the first round. But then their idiot coaching staff, which I've never really even thought about being in the Chiefs division. Like I've never really thought about the Chargers coaching staff at all. Like I've just always thought they've had like a nasty roster. But once you told me that earlier in the season, I watched the Chargers like totally miscoach a game and lose. I can't remember specifically which one, but I have the Jags winning and going on to play the Chiefs.
So, as far as the score prediction here, I'm going to go 27 to 21. Would you like to throw out a score?
Mm, I like that score, 27-21. Bengals. I
O-
mean Jags.
Okay. So, for the next matchup, we have the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Bengals, and that's obviously a division matchup. So, I want to go ahead and get your thoughts on that first.
I think we saw a preview of this game literally just last week, and the Bengals stomped the Ravens. I think even with Lamar Jackson playing, it'll be a stomp like 35-21. Bengals beat the Ravens.
Okay, and why do you think that? Do you think that has a lot to do with Joe Burrow? Because a lot of people have sort of questioned the Bengals' defense.
I think their team is just all around better than the Ravens is, and like Joe Burrow doesn't really make mistakes. It's more so of like whoever gets the final drive type thing, and I feel like he's just gonna score repeatedly on them.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I also think with the whole Lamar Jackson kerfluffle in the late part of the season, where Harbaugh calls him out as lazy, I think Harbaugh sort of sees like the writing on the wall as far as his job status is concerned. And I've never really trusted Lamar. It's great for that year before he sort of got figured out. The NFL is a league like that where certain metas can be very good, and then once a guy like Belichick figures it out, everyone will just copy it. And I think that's the truth to some extent with Lamar. Their defense isn't that great. They don't have any receiving weapons. They've been banged up with injuries. So for me, this is Bengals all the way. They have the better weapons. They have the better quarterback. And obviously, they went to the Super Bowl last year. And if you throw out the first couple games where they looked a little rusty, I think they looked very good for the majority of the year. So I'm going to give this one to the Bengals. I'm going to give it to them 35 to 17. And as far as the next matchup goes, I think it's relatively uninteresting. It's the Dolphins and the Bills, which sounds great, but you have to realize Tua's not playing. So what are your thoughts on this one, Sigach?
I mean, I think everybody knows the answer to this one. It's definitely going to be Bills over the Dolphins, and I think they'll go on to lose to the Bengals the next round.
But why do you think the Bills will lose to the Bengals in the subsequent round?
I think Burrow's a better quarterback than Josh Allen. Like Josh Allen in the big games, like the reason I think Mahomes owns Josh Allen is because if you like watch Josh Allen's face, he looks like kind of nervous. He'll like look shocked when he does something like a big run. Like his faces just look like, how the fuck did I do that? Whereas like you watch like Burrow or like Mahomes or like even like Brady in his prime, even Brady now, it's like when they fucking throw a pass or like lead a game winning drive, like they're hyped, like they're like, I fucking did that. Like,
They know.
yeah, they fucking know. And I don't think like Allen has that confidence.
I totally agree. And Allen in big games really has a tendency to do the most insidiously stupid things imaginable. Random pitch plays in big playoff games, reminiscent of Reggie Bush versus UT in the big Rose Bowl game, that big pitch. And Allen is a guy who is great during the regular season. He's a stat sheet stuffer type of guy, but he kind of has a little bit of shit for brains in him in the big games. But for me in the first round, without Tua, this is a walkover. The Bills, even if Allen struggles, the Bills have enough weapons Singletary, Diggs, and the defense is good enough to wither even a bad game. So I was really high on the Bills in the preseason, and I think they're going to win here. I think they're going to win comfortably. So, Cgauch, when it comes to the AFC, I think one thing really stands out, and that's how much do you believe in the Eagles? So, before we take on this interesting Cowboys matchup, how much do you believe in the Eagles?
I'd say about like a 6.5. I don't believe in them. Like I think they're gonna lose in like the or NFC Championship.
So, why don't you believe in them? This is a team with a great defense. Is it because of Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts? What do you think?
It's not like that. Maybe not believing in them is like a poor choice of words, but I just don't have them going on to the Super Bowl. Like I think the 49ers have a better everything. Like I think their defense is better. I think their offense is more dynamic and can spread the ball around better. I think they could even run the ball better. Like they have Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. Like they're a sick team, and Purdy's playing pretty damn well right now. And the 49ers defense, like number one rushing defense, and Nick Bosa is probably defensive MVP of the league right now. Fuck Mika Parsons, and I feel like he's just gonna shut down Jalen Hurts, and they're gonna force him to like play quarterback and throw the ball because they're not gonna be able to run it.
I feel like Parsons does a lot more for his defense in terms of like how hard they rely on him to win. Bosa has better pieces around him. The Cowboys defense gets a lot of credit, but I think Parsons carries a lot of it, even if Bosa's maybe better and gets more sacks.
Yeah, but I don't think Parsons should be credited for the rest of his defense being worse than Nick Bosa's.
Sure. But I think a lot of it has to do with the Cowboys have a certain bias to them, even on a national level, almost on the level of the New York Yankees, where a lot of their players will get more credit than they deserve and get overhyped. Zach and Deke, Dak, excuse me, Dak and Zeke, they're basically the same
Uh,
fucking person at this point.
I thought you were talking about Zach Martin.
No, no, no. I like
He's
Zach
sick.
Martin.
I was like, Zach
The
Martin's sick.
Yeah, the line is the one part of the Cowboys that doesn't get enough credit, and I think in the coming years, like Tyron Smith can't stay healthy, but as the Cowboys line starts to deteriorate, whether it be Dak Prescott coming back or a new quarterback coming in, it's going to look bad. I think they're going to struggle. And if it's not Dak, some idiot is going to, some idiot, aka like 80% of the people in Texas who support the Cowboys, are going to say, oh, Dak was great. This new guy's terrible. Meanwhile, every good lineman has left. But I'm really excited about the Cowboys getting that Zeke Elliott deal off the books. But personally, to bring it back to the Eagles, I believe in the Eagles. I think the Eagles will make it to the Super Bowl. The only thing I'm concerned about is Hurts' health. I said this in a TWIF episode about halfway through the year. Anytime it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, the Eagles are going to line up in like the wishbone and run a Hurts sneak. And they really rely on that too much, and it showed near the end of the year. So I like the Eagles. But to talk about the first round of the NFC, this Monday night game, which is, I think, the best game for the first round of the playoffs, Dallas Cowboys, the first wild card seed, taking on Tom Terrific in Tampa from that sewer division, the NFC South, where basically if you were 500, you were going to win it. It's like the Neo NFC East. Cgauch, is Tom Terrific going to embarrass the Cowgirls?
If you would have like this is the same thing with the Chargers. Like if you would have asked me like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have had the Cowboys upsetting the Eagles like second round. But now I think Brady's like getting hot. I think the Cowboys like Dak looks terrible. I could see like this could be a game where Dak like has like his one good playoff game, and then he goes and plays the Eagles next week, and he throws for like two TDs, two picks, and like people are like, oh well, he actually played pretty well in the playoffs the first round. Like we should keep Dak and believe in him when he's like y'all should be trading him right now.
Bunch of pass yards at the end.
Yeah, exactly. He'll throw for like 340, get like 140 of those yards, just like garbage time fourth quarter, like getting big like just getting shut down by the Bucks defense. But I think the Bucks are going to beat them the first round and then go on to lose to the Eagles.
Interesting. See, I agree. For weeks, I've been talking about how the Cowboys are going to flounder and they're going to fail. And honestly, they did better in the regular season than I thought they would. The game that sticks out to me is how they had to move hell and earth to barely beat Gardner Minshew and have a bunch of dumb turnovers to get lucky and do it. So people will point to that as like they have beat the Eagles, but no, they really haven't. And it was a very close game, and it was at home.
And at the end, like Miko Parsons was like begging for that, like used a timeout himself. He was so gassed. So it's like that, like showed me he's like there, but not ready to like compete for like Super Bowl level. Like he's not Von Miller when he was on the Broncos, like going for the Super Bowl. Like Von Miller wasn't gassed, begging for a timeout in the end of the game.
That's true. That just shows how close it was. They barely won that game at home against a backup. Parsons had a great game. They barely got there, but look, that's a test. That's like when the Z Fighters barely beat Nappa, and it's like, okay, well, you still have to beat Vegeta. Vegeta is Jalen Hurts at home. They're not playing Gardner Minshew again, okay? This is not going to be the same game, but they're not even going to get there. The crux of the issue here is the best quarterback to ever play the game, Tom freaking Brady, 40 what, 2 years old, standing in the first round. His Pro Bowl center went down early this year. It was a really rough year. The divorce saga. Thank God he made the playoffs. It would have really been brutal for Brady's legacy for him to come back for one more year because of a divorce and then miss the playoffs. That would have been brutal. Because remember, the way he went out in that last playoff game was epic. You remember that one,
Yeah,
Cgauch?
not particularly, but like the divorce saga is just so funny to me. Like him just like playing this year so he doesn't have to pay her like out of that $300 million contract he's going to be getting to broadcast is just hilarious.
Well, I'm glad his last game is not going to be a regular season game. There's a lot of talk of like he's going to become one of the best paid casters ever, sort of Tony Romo V2. Oh, he's going to go halvesies on a team. Who knows what he's going to do? But I'll tell you this, he's going to run through the Cowboys. The Cowboys defense, I don't think is going to be completely embarrassed, but I think the Cowboys offense will be embarrassed. Look for Dak to throw at people's feet. Look for Zeke to give up. Look for Tony Pollard to put forth an amiable effort, but it not really be enough. I think unless you see like a Stephon Diggs big interception, Mika Parsons strip sack, Trayvon Diggs, excuse me, they're both exceptional speed players. But the crux of the issue here is I think the defense is going to have to carry the Cowboys. And the Bucks are known for stopping the run, and the Cowboys are known for a run first team. Is Dak a guy that's going to be able to line up in the shotgun and air it out? I've never thought of him as a quarterback that can do that when it's on the line. So, advantage Bucks. I think the Cowboys' offense is really going to sputter here, and I don't think they're going to come with any creative play calling. Expect for them to use one gimmick play in the opening drive and never do anything creative for the rest of the game. I'm going Bucks 35, Cowgirl 17.
I like that prediction.
Okay. 35-17.
Yeah.
So this next game I think is more interesting than a lot of people think because the Giants are a team who really are not that good that sort of snuck in, but they've really relied on Saquon. Jones has turned the ball over less, and I think the Vikings are a terribly overrated team. So this game is only a 3-point Vikings favorite. The Vikings won a ton of games. They were like the number one team or the number two team in the NFC at one point seed wise. So to me, this is a really interesting game, even though it might not look the part right out the gate. What do you think, Gouch?
I mean, it's interesting for the fact that like you can't even tell which team's better regardless of their record. And like I believe you asked me yesterday or 2 days ago like who I thought was going to win, and I think I said the Giants if Daniel Jones was playing.
He will be.
But I think I'm going to switch my answer here now to the Vikings because I think Kirk Cousins kind of is a playoff quarterback or playoff like able quarterback. Like I think he leads them to a win here and like has that game is like holy fuck is like Kirk Cousins like actually good because like people do not give him enough credit. Like I think he's like above average quarterback.
So do you think you just said he's a playoff caliber quarterback. Do you think that that's going to be true throughout the playoffs or just against the LOL Giants?
I think against the LOL Giants, who might he play? Seattle and who else? No, he's not beating San Fran. I have San Fran going on to the Super Bowl, so depends what happens there. But I think San Fran's going to play them, and Vikings will lose.
That's interesting. A lot of people say that Kirk Cousins is a regular season guy and he can't cut it in the postseason or the mainstream, like big Monday night football game, the prime time game, it's often referred to as. And I think that, I honestly think that reputation is true to some extent. I think the Vikings collected a lot of wins off of a weak league this year, the mean talent level being a bit lower than usual this season. And if you look at their division, the Bears couldn't figure out how to win until they let Fields run, and then of course he got hurt. The Packers were not that good all season and missed the playoffs for Christ's sake. And
Go Detroit, dude. Go
yeah,
Detroit.
and Detroit was like clueless for the first 6 weeks, looked like a joke as usual, but then turned into a plucky winning team
Hey,
that everybody
that's
liked.
gritty coaching right
It
there.
is
That's
gritty
gritty
coaching.
coaching.
Dan Campbell leading them to a winning record was one of my favorite storylines of the whole season, and it's a damn shame the Seattle Seahawks made the playoffs instead of the Lions.
I agree. I would have loved to watch the Lions played at San Fran in the first round. Like I would even just because they're so gritty and never give up. Like I would even have them like that being a closer game than Seattle versus San Fran.
It's certainly more fun to watch, both narrative wise and talent wise. One thing that never gets talked about is Jared Goff's progression as a player. Everyone thought that he had completely peaked with McVay in that Super Bowl in terms of development, but he's looked good this year. He's cut down on the stupid mistakes and he's been more accurate.
Really? Yeah, it's been.
Yeah, I,
I haven't really watched a whole lot of Detroit games.
their offense has been surprisingly good. It was an incredibly porous defense that brought them down in the end. The game that stands out to me was a stinker against the Seattle Seahawks, which is pretty much why they missed the playoffs. A sewer game where they allowed like 500 plus yards against Geno Smith and allowed like 50 something points. Yeah, so that's what stands out to me. I think Goff improved. When you look at Swift and Williams, that's a nice little running back duo, even if you are a Swift fantasy owner and
I
it's
love Swift. I love him. I think he's like 2 or 3 years ago's Joe's Mixon. Like I think he's extremely talented, but not getting utilized. But Jamal Williams was also balling out. Like if he went to like an air raid, like spread the ball offense, like if the Chiefs traded for him, like even though we have McKinnon and I love Isaiah Pacheco, like if we had Swift, like holy shit, like Swift's amazing. I think he's like talent level of Joe Mixon, just like not getting utilized.
yeah. I think St. Brown is a fringe top 15 receiver
Amon St. Brown.
of the Lions.
I haven't watched him a whole lot. I haven't
Okay.
seen a whole lot of Detroit games, but I mean he's been balling out in fantasy.
Well, he put up 1,000 yards this season. I think he only has room to grow. But enough about the Lions. That's a team you can look forward to next season, potentially winning 10, 11 games in a weak division. The Packers are probably going to lose Aaron Rodgers. Look out for the Lions and potentially steal that weak division.
They could win 10
Because
games.
the
That would,
Bears aren't going to be any good. I think the Vikings could be defrauded.
I think the Bears will be better. They just need a line.
Okay, well, yeah, they're going to be better. They won like 3 games this season. They're still not going to be good.
Yeah, you're right. They'll probably win like 5 or 6, maybe a 7.
Yeah.
Like that's a great year if they
Well, if
win
Fields
7.
can stay healthy, they could like win 7 or 8 games, but I just don't think that's very likely, frankly. But pulling it back to this Giants game here, thinking about the Giants and the receiving core is pretty weak. Galladay showed up for the first time all fucking season last week. I'm not buying it. Saquon is healthy, which there's a potential that he could rip through this defense and hard carry. And when it comes down to the Giants, I think the crux of the issue is ball control. I think if Daniel Jones cannot fumble or throw an interception, and you can maybe have Kirk Cousins gift you a turnover or two, I think that could be the difference. And this would be the out of all the games where I would smell an upset. Jags, notwithstanding, because they won the division. But I think this will be real close. I think this one's going to go like 28-27 Vikings.
I think like 35-24 Vikings.
Okay. And how do you think Kirk Cousins is going to play? Over under 265 passing yards.
Over.
Over. Dalvin Cook over under 85 rushing yards.
Under.
Okay, interesting. So we both took the Vikes here, and I think we're going to be on the same page about what happens to them in the subsequent round. So to finish out the first round here, Seattle Seahawks, 49ers. I don't believe in the Seahawks. A cute little season. Another team that basically was average, but average was worse than it was previously, so they made the playoffs, lol. Against a red hot Niners team. I am sort of concerned about the quarterback situation. They're going with Brock Purdy, the rookie. Obviously, Trey Lance has long been hurt. Jokey G went down a few weeks ago. It's rumored he could come back during the playoffs, but that's one of those situations where if Purdy's won a couple games and looked good, do you want to switch and put Jimmy G in? But as it stands, the Niners defense is too good and they have too many offensive weapons to lose this game to a Seahawks team that was lucky to make the playoffs over the Lions.
Yeah, I think speaking to like the playoff scenario, like if Garoppolo comes back for the 49ers, I could see them letting him play, like letting him start, like you have to let the starter start. Like I think everybody would disagree with it and like the fans would want Purdy to play, but I could see that being like a situation like Garoppolo's playing the first quarter and if he throws like a pick and like has a punt, like they're probably throwing fucking Purdy in if they're down like a touchdown or two. So I could see that happening, but I think they beat the Seahawks pretty handily, like 35-21 or something like that. Maybe like a 28-21, just like a boring game to watch. Like
Agreed.
I think they'll be up by like two scores for the majority of the game, and maybe even score like 40. I could see that. Like I could see it getting out of hand.
I totally agree. And as far as the quarterback situation go, you talked about what the fans want, you talked about what the media might say. What do you think the linemen want?
The linemen want
Yeah,
or the
like
49ers?
Jimmy G or Purdy if both were healthy, like in 2 weeks.
Sheesh. That's a tough question. Probably Purdy, just because you're so hot right now, and like that quarterback's just like has the hot hand, and like now you believe in him, and like Jimmy G has like I can't tell if he's like just like a shitty teammate or not, like if he's never there for training camps, like stuff like that. So like guys hate that when you're there every day.
So we both got the Niners here winning in a snoozer, and we can talk about the subsequent rounds, which won't take as long because there's way less games. So here we see we both. This makes it easy because we have a lot of the same predictions with different scores. But I think a lot of these if you look at the first round as a whole, it's not that interesting and it's pretty obvious. Like the Jags game is good, the Cowgirls game is good, the Giants game can be good, but outside of that, I think they're pretty stompy games. And we see that the Chiefs will take on the Jags. And you're a Chiefs fan, so I'll go first. This is a fucking walkover for the Chiefs playing at Arrowhead. Another great year where they fire on all cylinders behind Andy Reid. Solid defense, phenomenal offense. A lot of people were worried when Tyreek left, but they just look like a really great team, well rounded, and they're my favorite to win the AFC. And I think Trevor Lawrence will have a pretty good day, but it won't be near enough.
As a Chiefs fan, I always try to like remain very non-biased. Like you know that. Like I even like I'll argue against the Chiefs all the time for like shit they do, or like even like games that are like blowout wins.
Yeah, you were worried about them winning the division a little bit in the offseason.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely was. Like every team improved their defense and like their offense. Like Raiders even got Devonte Adams. I was getting worried. We lost Tyreek, but like also I predicted that they were just going to spread the ball around more and rush the ball more with Isaiah Pacheco, in which they've done that. And their offense is like balling out. Mahomes MVP, and then but I like against the Jags. I could see it like be actually being like a closer game. Like I don't think the Chiefs run over them just because Trevor Lawrence is playing pretty well right now. But I do think they win by like two scores. Like I don't see them winning by like three or four scores.
38-24 Chiefs.
Hmm. Probably like 31-24.
Okay, so we're close. We're close there. I like that. What do you if you had to put in a percentage chance that the Jags upset the Chiefs? I think it's less than 10%.
Yeah, I'd probably give it like 12%, like something low like that.
Okay. So then I don't really I also think like the Bengals are a pretty surefire lock. Like if you're betting, like the Bengals would be a team that I would be confident to mix into a parlay, like a Bengals money line type bet. And they're going to be facing the Bills, which of course is a rematch of that Monday night, the oft repeated Monday Night Football Hamlin game that got canceled, which is very very rare, and everyone wants to see this. Joe Burrow versus Josh Allen, two exciting, marketable quarterbacks, two gritty lunch pail type guys. And it's going to be a great matchup in terms of the skill positions, too, with Jamar Chase, who everybody likes, and Diggs, who is a top five cat in the league. I love this matchup. This is one of those matchups where like they could put it on the schedule twice, the regular season schedule, and everybody would like it. They would love that. And this is the most interesting matchup to me. Like, what would you like to throw in about this before we give predictions?
I think Bro just is gonna own Josh Allen with like his confidence. Like he doesn't make mistakes, and I think Allen's going to. Like I think he's gonna cost the Bills the game again.
I agree. I think this really comes down to Josh Allen's ability to cement himself as a legitimate postseason quarterback and not a choker. And he's not like a choker like how Tony Romo thought of people as a choker, but he's sort of like a retarded choker. Like he's like a throw armies away like choker. He just really doesn't have that like killer grit like Cgauch was talking about earlier. He almost looks surprised when he succeeds. I think the coaching is about the same. But to me, this is like a really exciting, compelling game. I think it shoots out. I think it goes 38-35. Bengals.
Wow. Yeah, I think this game's going to be extremely exciting, and I'm the only team I'm worried about in the playoffs is the Bengals, like against the Chiefs, just because Burrow's fucking owns Mahomes right now. He's up 3-0 this year, but I have the Bengals beating the Bills. I like that prediction, like 38-35 is that what you said?
Yep.
Yeah, I could see like that being a perfect score. Like if there's like a bet, like the over, like they're gonna score over 65 points in this game.
Love it. So, talking about the NFC, we both had the Cowgirls choking. So that puts it at Bucks Vikes, which this was the last year these two teams played.
I'm surprised we haven't had like a disagreement on like who's gonna progress through the rounds. Because
Well,
we all have the same, like we both have the same team coming out for every round.
I think it's worth noting that we didn't Skip and Shannon style coordinate talking points and like agree before this. This was all like organic first take. And I also think it's worth pointing out that the first round I don't think was that hard to predict. I think a lot of the games are pretty stompy, and I think the first round's often like that.
Yeah, I agree.
So this is a great game because last season these two teams played, the Bucks and the Vikes, and this was when I was with Atlantic. I was at AC with Spency. Shout out to my boy Spency, couple outliers, elusive smoke.
He has like the best predictions for fantasy every year. He's amazing.
The king of the spreadsheet, some people call him. I love him. Great support player. But this is the first game I ever bet like a G note on, like just with one bet, and it was like Gronk receptions over because I thought the Bucks were gonna beat the Eagles, but the Bucks monster mode the Eagles so bad where it was like 38-0 at halftime, and they basically just like pulled the starter slash ran it, and I lost the bet. It was such a stomp.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Thankfully, I got it was one of those free roll promotions where it's like you have to bet a grand, like your next bet is like another grand bet, and I won that one to break even, barely, barely. That was on a rush yards over for the next game. But Spencer and I were sweating that up in AC between King of the Hill watchings. But I'm looking at this Eagles team, and I really believe in them. And I'm looking at this Vikings team, which is in the next round and unrelated. And I'm looking back at the Bucks team and thinking about Brady's God tier, but it's not that Brady's washed. It's that his line has fallen apart. There's too many injuries, and they can't really run the ball consistently enough. And I think Philly will be hard to beat in Philly. That is a cesspool city. That's another place me and Spencer went. Horrible. I give it Eagles 35, Bucks 27.
Yeah, I think Bucks going into the Eagles here is just a really tough place to win. Like that fan base is really just disgusting and filthy human beings. But I think Brady like has kind of proven he can play at this level. Like he's gonna win the first round of the playoffs. Like admit the divorce. Like just being able to play through that. What a goat. But
It just adds to his legacy.
yeah, definitely all the mental distractions, and he's still just out here slinging it. Like he was an insta start for like when I knew the playoff spot was on the line. Like he was gonna ball out. 43 points for my Super Bowl dub. Just
Embarrass the Panthers.
yeah, exactly. And then, but against the Eagles here, I don't think he gets it done. I think he has a decent game, like 35-28 Eagles.
Over under 280 passing yards for Tom. Terrific.
Over.
Okay.
Barely over.
So we were both kind of low on the Vikings in the first round and thought the Giants would play well against them, and we were both high on the Niners. So I think this one's pretty obvious. I think the Vikings get embarrassed. I think the Niners really show up and do well. I don't think it matters who plays quarterback. I think the Vikings straight up emulate. I think the Vikings throw up all over themselves and embarrass themselves. This is where, despite them beating New York in the first round, everyone like beats the Kirk Cousins meme into the ground again. So I don't believe in the Vikings at all. I think out of all like the high win, like top three seed teams, they're the worst. They're the most fraudulent, and they're a team that has the weapons going in. They have Jefferson, they have Cook, they have Cousins. Don't believe in them at all. Give me the Niners 42 to 17.
Wow, 42 to 17. I don't know. I don't know about 42-17. I think 49ers are definitely going to get it done here. I don't think Kirk Cousins like is at the like be able to fight in like the conference championship for the Super Bowl spot level. But I think 49ers win here like 35-21, like something like that. Not out of hand like you were saying.
Alrighty. So we got the Niners going, and this is where it gets down to the nitty gritty. So of course we had Chiefs here, and that puts the Chiefs versus the Bengals. This is one of those games that everybody likes and a matchup that everyone wants to see. This is one that if it's on the regular season schedule, you're circling it. It's always going to get watched. It's worth watching, and it's a classic. You talked about uh, Mahomes not having a great record versus Burrow so far, and I just want to hear Mr. Unbiased Chiefs fans' take on this upcoming classic, Chiefs Bengals.
Listen, everybody knows what happened in that Chiefs Bengals game this past year. It should be 2-1 Chiefs. The Bengals faked an injury when they had a 12th man on the field, and the Chiefs were on like the one or the two, like gonna score no matter what. And the guy faked the injury, and they got like a timeout call with when we would have gotten an automatic first down from that penalty. So they kind of like cheated a little bit, but it's all good because now they know that they cheated to beat us, and they're gonna lose in the playoffs because the Chiefs are doing everything right. They're making the adjustments they need, and they're putting the work in, and not pulling that little cheater bullshit, deflating balls. But I think the Chiefs like take that next step here. Like I have Mahomes winning the regular season MVP over Burrow and Hurts, and I think this is going to be the game. Like Mahomes makes that statement, like, no, you're not on my level yet, Burrow. But I think Burrow's like obviously amazing. I think he's like just under Mahomes, but I think MVP Mahomes is going to like show out this game, like potentially three passing TDs and like a rushing one or two rushing TDs.
Do you think the MVP award has become too much about just who the best quarterback on the best team is, and defensive players never get considered, receivers don't really get considered?
Yeah, I definitely think it has. I mean, like, what do you do? Do you make like another other MVP trophies for like different positions and like name them after other players, like a Bo Jackson trophy or something like that? Like, I don't know, because it's like the quarterbacks are gonna get the most statistics out of everybody no matter what. So they're the most important position on the field.
It is.
So like technically they are the most valuable position. So it's like they should get the award. But like what? Because Justin Jefferson's not getting it. People are gonna get butthurt. It's like he's amazing, but he's not like a quarterback elite top like number one in the league, Mahomes level.
I just think like a defensive player, no matter how good they do, is like never gonna win it. That's what stands out to me. But
Well, that's why they have a defensive MVP trophy.
okay, fair enough. Defensive Player of the Year,
Hmm.
J.J. Watt. All right, I agree with almost everything you said. I really like the Chiefs here. I think the Bengals are good offensively. For way too long this NFL season, we have seen teams make unforced errors, be foolish, and put out a shit product. This is not going to be one of those games. Both of these offenses are going to function and be fun to watch. I think this is going to be one of those games that's competitive down into the fourth quarter. I think both teams use some cute plays, going to be some interesting play calling. I think when you look at a team like the Cowboys, you sort of know outside of the first drive, they're not going to show you anything offensively that's interesting. Like the Chiefs here, I think it's going to be a high scoring game. Give me Chiefs 28 to 35. So on the right side of the bracket, another really good game. Niners and the Eagles. What do you think here, Gouch?
I think the 49ers are gonna like their defensive dominance are just gonna show out on the Eagles run game, and they're gonna force Jalen Hurts to play quarterback and throw the ball, and I think that's where he's gonna make a lot of mistakes. Like I think they're gonna do a very good job containing him and not allowing him to like get those big rushes out of the pocket. And I think their offense is like they have way more weapons. Like Debo just got healthy. I think they're gonna spread the ball out. Like Kittle can even like go get the ball. Like he's a nasty tight end. And I think Purdy's like playing very well. I don't think it's gonna be like a Jalen Hurts versus Purdy type thing. I think it's gonna be more of like team over team thing. And I think the 49ers have like the way more like well-rounded team.
That's interesting. They have been very hot as of late, but here's the first time I'll video where we're going to differ. I'm going with the Eagles. I think the Eagles have it. They're going to have home field advantage. Hurts will be at 100%, and I think that they're going to be able to outlast the Niners. I think if it is Purdy, it is. I think that'll be the week where there will be a decision, where Jimmy G will be healthy enough for there to be a decision. I think that'll be interesting because you're going to have to start Purdy on the road in Philly. It'll probably be cold as shit. So that you could potentially see Jimmy G make an appearance there, but I think as long as Hurts is at 100% going into that game, Philly wins. It's a really good game. Give me Philly 28, Niners 24.
Yeah, I had the 49ers winning like 35-24.
Okay, so give me your Super Bowl prediction that almost certainly ends with the Chiefs winning against the Niners.
Chiefs over Niners. Like I think no matter who they play or Eagles, I think the Chiefs are going to go on to the win of the Super Bowl. I think Mahomes gets a second Super Bowl MVP, and I think like he plays like a very elite level game. But I think Chris Jones goes off in the Super Bowl. Like I think he's going to have like 2 or 3 sacks, maybe like 3.5 sacks. I think he's going to have a ton of like blown up plays, whether it be like huge quarterback pressures that we need to like stop like third downs. Like I think he's going to like take that like step that we've always needed him to take in the playoffs in this like either the Bengals game or the Eagles game in the Super Bowl.
So I think the Eagles and Chiefs, it will be a very good game. And I think the Eagles really rely on home field advantage a lot more than other teams. I think this will be a high scoring game, again, where we see exciting plays where the offenses play well. I think Hurts is going to have a really big game yard wise. I think Mahomes is going to air it out, and the Chiefs are going to be able to control the ball more and play a more reliable style. Give me the Chiefs 24 over the Eagles 20. Cgauch, is there anything you want to close this video with?
Nope, not really. I don't really have a score prediction for the Super Bowl. I think Mahomes just has like that Super Bowl MVP performance. Like I think that's why he's going to beat the Bengals, the Eagles, or the 49ers. Like we just have the best quarterback in the game. So I think like we have like that huge aspect, and that's about it. But go Chiefs.
I'm excited for the playoffs, especially the second rounds and on. The Panthers were a joke this year, and the Cowboys game should be great. Make sure you like the video and sub for more. Thank you to Cgauch the champ for joining me.